So I didn't know whether I was speaking to the air or you guys are paying attention. Were you guys paying attention?
Yeah.
Do you guys understand?
Yeah.
Good, good. So, you know what? I have too many slides that I want to really crunch. So we'll get to the core and then I would like to open up about like a 20 minutes for question and Q&A session. How's that? And whatever we don't catch, I'll give you my email address. So please write your questions and then I'll be able to respond back that way. Or if you like, you can write your answer. You can write me a mail, a letter, $10 bill, and write your question and answer and address. And depending on the value of the bill, your answer will come to you quicker or slower. Okay? The law of supply and demand. So, hey, thank you for coming here. And may I see by hand? 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th, 12th. So did you guys all take biology courses? No. Some yes, some no. Did you learn some? Do you have science courses?
No.
Yes. How many people learn from school evolution? Can I see by hand? Evolution. Okay. How many people have no clue what evolution is? Okay, good. So 나중에 가서 배울 거니까 don't worry if you don't understand. Okay, so I'm going to cater to as basic and as simple as possible. And the title of my second presentation is Who Has More Faith? Remember, I kind of laid out the foundation why I say so, right? Because they cannot prove, I cannot prove. So why are you telling me that I'm a religion and you guys are telling me that you are science? Because there are elements of science that you can predict, and there are part of the science that you cannot predict. The past, history, you cannot predict, right? How old is the Earth, they say? Did you guys pay attention? 4.5 billion years. How old is the universe?
I think 13.5 billion.
13.5 billion years. You know how many years that is? A lot. Okay? How old is a man? The oldest person that can live in present day and age?
I think around 126.
120.
Oh.
You know why? I tell you why. Look at the book of Bible. God says, I'm sick and tired of people. I'm going to limit their age and not to be more than 120 years. And after that, people's age started to decline. And now I haven't seen many people. Just recently, a lady in Israel became 120 and she died. So I can count on God. Count on God. I said, okay, most of us, the maximum age that probably we can live is about 120 years. Okay. So let's go into this, and then I wish I had more time, but we only have now only 55 minutes. So that leaves me only about 30 minutes of a presentation, and I'll leave 20 minutes for Q&A session. Okay. So the objective, I said, was an equal footing between different views, right? Meaning, it's like this. Yeah, why are you not standing in the line? Let's say you're waiting for food, right? Someone comes in front of you and say, yo, let's say you just cut into the line. And someone else cut in front of you and tells you, no way, why did you cut me in line? Get back. Does he have the right to tell you that or no? Yes? 넌 괜찮아? Man, I don't know what country you're from. Where I come from, man, it's yo, how dare you tell me to go back when you just come in front of me? So we are on the same footing, right? In order for you to be above somebody else, you have to be on the right ground. And the point that I'm trying to make is when scientists or evolutionists, people who do not believe in Bible, say, you guys are a bunch of Christians, you only believe in faith, blind faith. Okay, let's talk about it. When they ask you evolution, you should be asking, what kind of evolution are you talking about? Because there's an evolution that is science, and there's a part of evolution that is fiction. And they use the same term to capture both under the same name. So that's why I always ask you this. When I tell my wife, I love you, she said, what do you mean? Flowers from a flower shop? You see, now I define the same ground, right? Otherwise, you're going to be saying the same thing, but you are totally thinking of totally different thing. It's like a blind man who grabbed, 5 blind men who grabbed the elephant trunk. Everybody grabbed different part of the body of the elephant and says, an elephant is like a long road. No, an elephant is like a big trunk of a tree. Because everybody grabbed a different part. But you have to set the groundwork, say like, no, let's define what do you mean by evolution. Let's define what do you mean by love. Okay? What do you mean by truth? You have to define on this thing. Alright? So I want you to get into the habit of saying, what do you mean by that? Say, everybody repeat with me. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that?
Definitions, okay? So let's move along. So the basic question that we all have, basic scientists, Christian, we all have, is the question of origin. Where do we come from? Right? Where do we come from? This is a very important question because let's say you are so rich you want to build your dream house. What's your name? David. Do you have a dream house?
Yeah.
Okay, how about, okay, yes, right?
Yes.
Okay, what's your name? Nina? Yuna. Yuna, do you have a dream of a dream house? No? How about a dream boyfriend? Yes? So, you see, and then let's say like this architect, I hired an architect and asked him, okay, build me a house. So he builds the most modern, simplistic house that you could imagine, beautiful. And then comes back and I ask him, so Mr. Architect, where is the foundation? Somewhere around here? I mean, you telling me that you built the whole house, but you are not telling me the foundation. Where's my foundation? To be honest, Sean, I don't know. I don't do foundation. At that moment, I'm going to ditch him and find a new architect, right? Same thing. Question of origin. So yours, where do we come from? Are we molecule to man? Are we from, monkeys to humans? Is that your definition of evolution? Where do we come from? It's a legit question, right? Okay, David, where do you come from? You're not David, right? No, you are.
Oh, I'm Jeff.
Jeff, where do you come from? From your mom and dad?
Oh,
Okay.
I have
No idea? Okay.
no.
What's your name? Jenny, where do you come from? Biologically.
Oh, yeah, parents?
Okay, where do they come from?
From their parents?
Where do they come from?
Their parents.
So keep going on for generations. At some point, you're going to come to, so where do they originally come from? So, it's not that they have, scientists don't have a different data. We both have same data. We get a fossil of dinosaur. We get a fossil or skull of some ape, primate, or human. We get some fragment of bones. We are looking at the same data. But based on your philosophical knowledge, your interpretation changes. Do you understand? It's not that like we don't have evidence. We have the same evidence. Somebody asked me, what about dinosaur? What about dinosaur? Right there, you got the bone. We found the bone, so there was a dinosaur, right? So there's a dinosaur, the same thing, but based on your philosophical your philosophy, you choose to see things in a different light. So that's what we are trying to discuss here. You guys understand? 한국말만 하는 사람 있어요 여기? You all understand English? Yeah? Anybody speak Spanish? ¿Habla español? No? No? Japanese?
Oh, wow.
Chinese?
My mom
No.
speaks.
Yeah, my grandma speaks Japanese. So what? Do you speak Japanese? See, that's always the question that you should be asking. It's irrelevant what someone said. What do you believe? So let's look at this. Intelligent design is not really, I'm not preaching Christianity, guys. I'm just saying like, look, I'm just an honest scientist. I ask questions rationally, and I'm just asking, hey, I want our students, I want our children to have the freedom to examine the same data so that they can draw a conclusion for themselves. Why are you indoctrinating and telling my children that it's evolution when you don't have any evidence to back it up? That's not education. So no equal footing with evolution is in our education system because education says evolution is science. They think that's the truth. But is it really the truth? So those who don't know the theory of evolution, the evolution says 13.5 billion years ago, nothing exploded. Poof! Now, how does nothing explode? Can someone give me the answer to that? David, how does nothing explode? Oh, good answer. A scientist, a PhD will tell you the same answer. We don't know. And we are part of it because we're going to keep looking. Keep looking. And basically what it says, nothing exploded, and out of nothing comes everything. The living matter, non-living matter, conscious matter, self-conscious, ethic, values, God consciousness. It's just an evolution. The next step of evolution, but you gotta get to the origin. So okay, this is great. Great observation. What about this? How did this happen? Can someone explain to me? How does nothing explode? Jenny, how does nothing explode? What is nothing? Let's define.
Nothing is nothing.
Nothing is nothing, right? So how does nothing explode when there's nothing to explode?
What's the definition of explode?
Explode? Oh, yeah. 똑똑하네. I just taught you and you're using that on me? Okay, let me show you what's explode. Stand up here and I'll be... Okay, never mind. Explode. It's like you want me to use scientific term? You know, matters in motion, atoms, you know, heat release, the change in transformation of state to a state. That's explode. Okay? How grade are you? Yeah, wait till you go to 12th grade and you learn everything. Okay, so there's only two options, guys. There is a random chance, right? Or there is a product of intelligent design. There's only two options. What other option are there? There's only two options. Either the origin is an intelligent design, or it's by random chance. Okay? So let me ask you a simple question. The great question that everybody answered. Was it the chicken first or the egg first? Chicken or the egg?
Chicken.
Chicken. Why?
Please God created.
No, I don't want you to use God. Come on, that defeats the purpose, you know. That angers non-believers. You tell them, your friend, oh, because the Bible says so. Yeah, but I don't believe the Bible. Why are you using the Bible? I don't believe the Bible. Let's talk about more scientific. Is it a chicken or the egg?
It's a chicken because the chicken is what makes the egg. So then,
Yeah, but then how did the chicken get there that made the egg? Yes, Jeff?
I think that the chicken has to first be born.
Uh-huh. So how was the first chicken born? Yes.
I think they also said it was an egg because
No, but then the egg, like where did the egg come from? See, there's a million-year question. I mean, this is throughout the human history we've been going on. What's your name?
Youngha.
Yonga, yes.
The egg needs the chicken to hatch.
Yes, egg needs the chicken to hatch, but then where was the chicken that hatched the egg?
At the same time.
Yes.
I don't. Me and my friends are talking about, but I don't really believe them. But they said two different animals like combined, and then they made a chicken.
So,
And
see?
they made like two chickens.
Okay,
and then
guys. And recently, university, some like Ivy League university, they did a research, and they said, you know, for an egg to grow up to be a full living chicken, it needs some enzyme that's only come from the parents, needs to raise, you know, butter it up with certain DNA. You see, so therefore an egg could never have become a fully grown chicken unless there was a parent. So paradoxically, chicken is the first, but we need to find the answer. Where did the first chicken come from? We still don't know, right? So that's the philosophical question that we keep asking. So they don't know, we know, but I don't want to use the Bible. Okay? So all I know is like there had to be a fully grown chicken from the beginning. That's what I'm saying. You see? So let's go to the next thing is evolution teaches us that 4 billion years ago, I say the universe started 13.5 billion years ago, but our universe started 4 billion years ago. Out of non-living matter, blop, 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 poof! Amino acid happened. It's all molecules, okay? Blop, 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 poof! Peptide happened. You guys, those who took chemistry probably know it's a higher form of molecule grouping. Blop, 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 poof! Protein, poof! RNA, poof! DNA, poof! Living matter, the best scientific explanation we get in school. So my question to you is like, how does nothing explode, and how does living matter come from non-living matters when you, in chapter 1, said a living matter can come only from another living matter? Teacher, come on, answer me this question. Yeah? And here's the thing. Let me tell you an example. You know what we are made of? If you break me down into chemical compound, I am CHO and nitrogen. So carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, some nitrogen. So basically I'm an organic compound. I'm made of those three elements. But now I give you all the carbon you want. I give you all the hydrogen you want. I give you all the oxygen you want. You just put it in your formula chemistry vessel. Keep shaking and poof, you see a baby. Does it make sense? No, right? So how are you telling me how did fairy tale become a science that non-matter became a living matter? That's a fairy tale for me. And we are learning this as a science. Really? We can only know things that we test, empirical test, observation, testing. What we see in a lab is experimental science. Yes, it is true, we can prove it. What you don't know how this thing happened is our history, is philosophy. So how are you telling me that's science? That sounds like a faith to me too. You guys understand the point? So, but here is where everything comes from, because 2,000 years ago in Greece, the Greek philosopher said, they believe in something called spontaneous generation. You guys know what that means? That life can arise from non-living matter. Why? Because this is what they saw. They had egg and cheese, you left it in the corner of your kitchen for a few days and you saw mice. See? Life from non-living matter. You bring like a meat on the desk for a long time and then you see maggots and the fly growing out of it. See? Living matter out of non-living matters. You go to the tap, to the stream, collect water, bring it and leave it in your house for 7 days. Oh, that's going to be fun. Guess what? Because then you see larvae, like a tadpole, mosquitoes. See? Living matter out of non-living matter. That's the widely held belief until 100 years ago. People believe in spontaneous generation. Do you understand? But is that true? No, it was there before. Why? How do you know? A gentleman in 1864 by name of Louis Pasteur. You guys drink milk and said pasteurized, come from his name. Means what he did, he boiled the milk to make sure that he kills any dubious living organism that was there before. And then he left it for a long time, and yet he didn't see any living organism growing out of it. He didn't see any new, like a mice, tadpole. And he said, you know what? What we got before, spontaneous generation, it's not spontaneous. It was, the element was already in there. And it just happened to evolve. We didn't have science to see that it was there, so we believed that that was the truth, but that's not true. Now, 1864, you can thank him for the milk that you drink. Okay? Or the pasteurized orange juices and milk. So, law of biogenesis, I want you to remember this. Life only comes from life. Life does not come from non-living matter. That's chapter somewhere in your biology book. And suddenly, when you come to chapter 23, or at the end, evolution, suddenly, life can come from matter, So DNA is absolutely essential for life. I told you why, because that's basically it tells the chemical compounds to come together in that sequential order attached to the DNA to become hand, ears, eyes, heart. Do you understand? That's a language of life, and it only can come from your parents. That's why an egg needs the parent chicken to grow, because it needs the DNA to, nourish it for it to grow to become a chicken. Think about it. How like a baby's form inside mom and dad, inside mommy? Okay, don't tell me what happened before that. Don't tell me what happened before that. Somehow the genetic element got into your mommy's tummy. And then that cell knows how to become duplicates from 1 cell to 2 cells, 4 cells, 16 cells, 32 cells. Math, okay, I stop there. But the cells keep replicating, and it's called mitosis and meiosis. Do you guys remember? You learned this, right? Meiosis is like a separation of cells, just like a growing. Duplication. And then suddenly, at some point, this cell knows, I'm going to become an eye. I'm going to become a brain. I'm going to become fingers. I'm going to become a heart. How does it know? How does a cell know to become those things? Well, because DNA tells them, okay, now you reach the size, now you do this job. Now you do this job. So it's kind of telling DNA is essential for life. You guys understand? So here's a very funny thing. A gentleman named Spencer Wells in National Geographic did a 15-year study. He went around, recorded the blood sample of 50 different races of people, and then he came to a conclusion. we are all related. We come from a one pair of human beings. Where did you hear that story? Can anybody tell me? And scientists are saying, I agree we come from a first pair of men and women. I mean, because all our DNA points out that we only had one man and woman that resulted on that. And they keep looking. While you're looking, I have my answer. But I'm not going to use the Bible, but I know the story, right? You know, you guys know, no other religion ever talks about the origin of life as much as the Bible. You know, yeah, but no scientist believes that, you know, that thing can happen. Come on, you're a scientist. How can you believe in that nonsense? Nonsense? Well, let me tell you something. Let me present to you a non-believing, non-Christian scientist who's honest. He says, the probability of life happening by chance is same as probability of throwing 6 dice, throwing 1,000,000 times, and every single throw, every dice turns 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6. Try that sometime at home. If you duplicate, I'll give you $1 million and you can teach me how to do that. Let's go to the casino. Or he says the chances of like a life arising from material is like a tornado passes by a junk there, and after it comes through, all the junk organizes itself and forms a jumbo 747 airplane. That's the chance of that happening. Do you believe that's possible? That's the chance. What is he saying? Impossible. So there are people, you know, like Mr. Mark Reedy, a biologist, a leading biologist who wrote a book called Darwin's Black Box. He says irreducible complexity, meaning all or nothing system. What part of this watch can you remove and it will still function? Can you tell me, Jenny? What part can you remove?
All or nothing.
Jeff? Okay, for the little friends that maybe that's too complicated, let's make it really simple. A mousetrap. That's simple, right? What part of this mousetrap can you get rid of and it still function? The spring? The hammer? The base?
Bit off the quarter.
No! You need the all component for it to function. Do you understand? So when you are telling me that it took time to evolve, I mean, how did this come to form? Only the spring evolved and it's waiting for the other components to come together. Guess what? What did I tell you? Evolution promotes the survival of the fittest, right? Well, another animal is going to come and kill you. Because you are not fully equipped to defend yourself because you are still developing. So you shouldn't have a fully formed you because you're gone. Survival of the fittest. Do you understand this philosophical time notion? Let me tell you something. All or nothing system in our body. The eye, the human eye, is a marvel of scientists and doctors. They still don't know how, by chance, this cell in our heart, the retina, and all this like a component, organic like a cell, take light, transform it into an electrochemical signal, send it to our brain, and then you get the image that you see right now. Amazing! All by chance. Okay? Let me tell you something here. The human ear, all or nothing system. What part of your ear can you get rid of and still you are able to hear? You tell me. Do you understand the concept? What part? Maybe the earlobes? No, I mean, yes, Jeff?
Certainly not the eardrum, because then you won't be hearing anything.
Great! Are you an A student? You're the type of a student that if you are going to school with me, I'll punch you on your face. You know why? You make the rest of us look really bad. Punch you on the face. Be quiet. Sit down. I have a friend, an Indian friend, who every time he came, he raises his hand, and his name was Galu. And then when the teacher asked if this guy stands up, he's fresh off boat from India. Teacher, and then he answered, and I said, Galu, next time you do that, I'm going to punch you in the face. You make us look stupid. I want to explain to you this like an example of all or nothing system. Okay, the giraffe. The giraffe is a cute animal. Okay, and it has something very unique. It has a heart size that is about 20 times bigger than our heart. Ours is like this big. There is this ginormous. Why? Because a giraffe has to pump the blood all the way through the head, right? But here's the problem. The same force of pressure that the blood is gushing to send it to head, when the giraffe bends down, it's going to its brain, it's rushing towards the brain, and if there's not a mechanism to stop it, the giraffe brain is gonna poof, explode. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine going to Africa and watching like a giraffe walking around without a head?
Oh,
That's terrible, right? But no, something very interesting. In the neck of the giraffe, there's the gates, like a sequence of domino gates that at its bend shuts down and stops the blood from gushing to the brain. And then when the giraffe is done drinking and it stands up, and then the blood starts flowing again. So there's a safe mechanism. How do you explain that? That if the giraffe evolved by sequential order, well, by the time before it got perfected, his brain would have been exploded. There's no giraffe, guys. Get it? So how do you explain to me how that happens? So what evolution says is like when a giraffe had a short neck, started to reach out long, and then became a long neck giraffe. See, evolution in action. Hey guys, that still looks like a giraffe. On evolution, and when you're telling me from molecule to man, monkey to man, one species becoming another species, but that's still a giraffe. And God built, and then that's happening is like we have a lot of generic code inside. It's just turning on switch and turning off the switch. It was still there. It's just a giraffe, right? Do you see any other animal? I see a giraffe. Do you see a giraffe? Let's look at this one. And people say, you know what? If you're a scientist, no scientist is a Christian. A Christian shouldn't be believing in science. You shouldn't miss it. Guess what? All the people who change our world with scientific law, they were Bible-believing Christians. Sir Louis Pasteur, Bible-believing Christian. Sir Isaac Newton, the guy who discovered, they said, God created everything in His nature the way it is. Therefore, let me go discover and try to capture what God did. Instead of saying, how did God did it? He asked the right question. And they were able to find the laws of gravity, the force, right? Force, mass equal acceleration. Do you guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Sir Gregory Mendel, what did he do? Genetics, the law of genetics. You mix like a red pea and yellow pea, and something comes out, in between. You mix a white child with a black child, and then hybrid comes out. Hybrid law. Galileo Galilei. Okay, we are the center of the universe. The sun. We are not. The sun doesn't evolve around us, but we evolve around the sun. He found it. You know why? Because God said in the Bible, He said, the sun, the earth circles around the sun. And it was written thousands of years before science was there. And he took that literally and said, if God says that's the truth and He's the creator, let me go find it. And he found it. Before that, before people thought like we were the center of the solar system and the sun evolved around us. But no, we know today it's a common knowledge that everybody knows, right? Who's this? Galileo Galilei, Copernicus, Galileo Galilei, Pascal discovered a lot of laws of nature, and Sean, I'm there too. One day. Shall I sing? You better ask for my signature now, so you see something. Okay, so evolution is because they cannot find the answer in science. Now they change the topic and they say, wait, let's talk about fossil. Let's talk about fossil. Okay, what about the fossil? Let's talk about it, man. Because Darwin says, if evolution were true, we would expect to find countless number of transition fossils. You know what I mean? If we are truly from monkey, we should be finding different species in between that links the two of us. If you say giraffe is what it is now and evolved from some other species, then you should find different link species in between that kind of you can put the bridge. But the fact is, guys, for 200 years we've been looking and we haven't found any transition fossil, and they're still looking. And God bless them. I mean, they can be looking all they want, and I guarantee you they won't be able to find it. Why? Because fact is, we only have small handful highly dubious example of transitional form. Okay? We don't have the full transition thing. They are only display a small sample of dubious form, and from this, they draw this. Amazing! I mean, how did you know that he had mustache and he was hairy from this? Really? I mean, they are only display a small sample of dubious form, and then look what they did. A plaster model of guy wearing a leather mink coat. piece of bone. This is an artist's rendition of a jawbone. Amazing. I mean, I give them a lot of props. There's no transitional fossil around the world. Okay? British Museum, Field Museum, dinosaur park, there's no transition fossil. I'm sorry. Stephen Jay Gould, he's an evolutionist, and he's an atheist, and he said, you know what, I have to agree that we're lacking transitional forms, but we'll keep looking. Okay, I mean, you spend your life, he's dead now, and you still haven't found anything, I'm sorry. So trade secret is like, there's no evidence of transitional fossil. Where? Okay? They all look to me like men. I mean, I don't know about some of them, but you know. So evolution has a definition. When evolution says evolution, the old definition was one species becoming a new species. Get it? Yeah. That was their definition. But because science didn't back up, now they shy away from that definition, and then they use the definition. Evolution is natural selection. You guys know what natural selection is? Okay, Jeff. I'm really gonna punch you one of this day. Go ahead. Just kidding.
Natural, it's like nature, and then selections like random, like.
Good. David could have said the same thing. You never give us that definition using the same word that I
I
asked
think
you.
I know it.
Yes.
Natural selection is, for example, like really dull colored peacocks. So back, I think the theory is there's a lot of dull colored peacocks and a few really beautiful colored peacocks.
Okay, stop there. I get there. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, 너는 말만 you talk about. These guys know what he's talking about. Let's get there. Natural selection. So whenever somebody asks evolution, you should be asking, what do you mean by evolution? Because there is a macroevolution and microevolution. And if your friend says, what do you mean by that? You're the one who asked me about evolution, so let's talk evolution. Do you mean macroevolution, where one species changes to another species? Or are you talking about microevolution, the same species changing its features to adapt to the environment? Because natural selection, microevolution, is science. So what do you mean by evolution? Okay? I mean, one question that you could ask, let's talk about it. Because what natural selection is a horizontal change within species, a bird with a short beak that gradually growing a long beak because it had to survive, adapt to the change. That's like me. I'm a natural selection in action. Why? Because before, when I was your age, I didn't have text, but now I have an APAC. Bam, 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 bam. Oh, you missed that one. There's another one right here. I evolved. I didn't change from becoming a human to someone else. I'm still a human, you know what I'm saying? Natural selection is a science. And natural selection is not a vertical evolution, macroevolution, because one species can never become another species. Okay? So what is natural selection? Natural selection is microevolution. Okay? When people ask evolution, you should always say, what do you mean by evolution? Microevolution or macroevolution? Throw some like a high educational one back at their faces. Because if they are not, and the thing is like whether you could never win an argument with person that already has their idea fixed. You are not here to correct him. You are here to defend your faith. I'm here to defend my parents' name. I'm here to defend God's name because I don't want someone to trash talk my God and say like, oh, you Christian, oh, you're one of those guys. No, what you got to say? Come on, let's talk about it. All right? I'm not trying to convert you. I'm just trying to justify and trying to, defend my faith and say like, don't trash talk my parents because I'm going to punch you. Really, I mean, that's the kind of thing that we are talking here. You know what I'm saying? We are not trying to, no one will come to Christ by, understanding this fact. All you are just doing is defending your faith. That's why it's called apologetics. You're just, defending your faith. Okay? God created natural selection to allow species to adapt to the environment. I mean, that's science. That's microevolution. So if you're talking microevolution, yes, I believe it. What evolutionists did, they store this idea and said, yeah, see, horizontal changes, now you give million years, 2 million years, 10 million years, then a species can gradually become something else. Were you there to prove it? No, I'm just saying. So what you're saying is that there's no ground. You're just hoping. That's your theory. See, theory is never true. It's hypothesis. It's what you think. But I'm not asking for what you think. I'm asking for your fact. Please, can you show me an evidence? I mean, that's a legit conversation, not to be offensive to anybody. Let me give you a quick example. Genetic, natural selection. When you mix a red rose with a white rose, what do you get? Pink rose, bingo! When you mix a bulldog with a shih tzu, what do you get? Bullshit, don't say that! Never!
I remember that.
Dumb and Dumber.
A human baby is a hybrid of its parent. It's a horizontal change within a species. Do you understand? And how the evolution came to be is like because this one dude named Darwin that looks like monkey himself went to the Galapagos Islands in his young youth days, and then he saw finches, bird, 참새. Okay, 참새, finches. Oh, they run. 참새, finches. So finches, right? And he found finches of all different shapes of beak, and he said, if this was true, then given enough time, you will see that the evolution of one species becoming another species. But guess what? Finches are finches and finches shall be. They didn't stop being finches, they are still finches. So where's your proof of a change in different species? Evolution of horse? Well, I still see horse, I don't see anything different. Scientists prove evolution works because look at all different kinds of dogs. Dog with long ears, short ears, big dog, small dog. They are still dogs. What are you talking about here? Scientists prove evolution works because they found orchids with all different variations. But they are still orchid. They haven't changed their orchidness. What are you talking about? Scientists prove that evolution works because look at all these variations of birds. Well, they're still birds. I mean, I don't see dinosaur or tigers. You see, natural selection is microevolution, same species. So evolution is not equal natural selection. One species can never be another species, okay, to this day. And how natural selection works is God created each species with that genetic code to have you originally a pair of dogs with all the genetic information. And then something second generation happens and then you get dogs with, see, you get one gene from each parent and you get dog with long hair. You get gene from each parent, you get short, you get long and short, you get somewhere in between. Let's assume that in the second generation something drastic happens and the climate goes really cold. Who out of those dogs are going to survive? Oh, 2 dogs died. And suddenly the temperature changes and then what happens? No one survives, everybody dies. This is the fact. Natural selection only is the downsizing of the amount of genetic material that was originally in our original pair of like dogs. It's like a washing away. You will never start adding more unless you combine all of them together. That's why today you see extinction, you don't see creation of new species because that's law of genetics. Okay? So fact, natural selection never produces new genetic information. Natural selection always results sorting or loss of genetic information. Natural selection will not and cannot produce genetic material. See? But then, you give enough time, a cell will become like a human cell. And just give a 4 billion years. Guess what, guys? A single cell has this much amount of, 500,000 pair of DNA. A human cell has 3 billion DNA. Where does this new information come from? That's why evolution is give 4 billion years and then you see that happen. Really? 4 billion years? This is a single cell. This is human cell. It's more elaborate, you see? So therefore, where does that information is critical. Then somebody asks, Sean, wait a second. Didn't scientists just prove very recently that all our DNA material is 96% similar? So don't you, that prove that we come from monkey, 4% difference. Really? Let's examine 4% of 3 billion. Let's see. That's an equivalent amount of 40 stack of encyclopedia amount of information consists of that 4% difference. Let me give you a better example. A cloud is 96% water. A jellyfish is 96% water. A watermelon is 96% water. Are they related? No, that 4% make all the difference. They are not related at all. You see, so you cannot come to me and say like, we are only 4% different. Define 4%. That's the question. As a Christian, okay, you should be asking this question. What do you mean by 4%? How big of that amount is? Okay? So why do they still believe in a natural selection? Because evolution ruled out the answer before you ask the question. Okay? We said that there's only two answers. Either we are designed or either by chance. But guess what? You remove one of the answers, and there's the one answer remaining. It's like this. 2 plus 2, 4, but 4 doesn't exist. David, what is 1 plus 3? No! There's no 4! Jen, what's 2 plus 2?
4.
No, there's no such thing as 4. 5? 6? I don't know. Of course, because you remove one of the answers. You see the problem here? It's not education when you don't give the two answers and let them choose for yourself. It's called indoctrination. Understand? Alright, guys, I have so much more material, but as I promised, I am going to open up for like a Q&A session. I have so much more material. If you have time, grab me today, tomorrow, and then just lie that you want to have a counseling session with me, and then we'll go inside and then we'll I'm fine with that. Don't try that. Okay? But I have 20 more slides to go, but I want to stop here briefly to go over Q&A session. Should I continue or do you want to go in the Q&A session?
Continue.
All right.
Wait,
Yes.
here's my question.
Yes.
Wait. Where were dinosaurs in like the Bible? Like, is God created like humans? Like,
Oh, they forgot the
did
date.
they live?
They forgot the date.
Okay, what about the Bible? Well, the Bible was never about dinosaurs, right? The Bible was about our relationship between man and God. But there are glimpses of dinosaurs. Why? Because in the book of Job, God says, when Job asked, God, why are these things happening in my life? It's miserable. My son died, my daughter died, my wife left me, I'm getting boiled, my friends criticize me that I've done something wrong. I've done nothing wrong. Why are these things happening? Are you a righteous God? And then he pleads with God, and God says, ta-da! God appears and says, were you there when I laid the foundation of the earth? How dare you ask me all those questions? Were you there when I built a behemoth, a leviathan? There's two words that you should be looking up. And God described, he breathed fire from the nostril. You cannot pierce with sword because its scale is so thick. I don't know any animal that looks like breathing fire from the mouth and then thick as nostril. I mean, that goes a lot of dinosaur, the dragon myth and tale that you see around the globe. That's a dinosaur. I mean, it existed there with men.
When did they exist in like the biblical timeline?
The biblical timeline from the book of Genesis. Yeah.
Like humans, like.
Yeah, they coexisted. Google image, dinosaur footprint and man footprint, and you will find a picture of a man footprint running next to the dinosaur. Now, interesting. Running with the dinosaur. Are you crazy to be running with a dinosaur or a lion? Why? They were running away some catastrophic event that both man and animal had to be running away from, that they didn't have time to, food. They didn't have time for that. They were running away. So it connects a lot with the story in the Bible. I'm not going to tell you why. But the man and dinosaur coexisted according to the Bible. Yes?
But you know how you said that everyone comes from Adam and Eve, but then if they did come from Adam and Eve, where did,
Because like they had Cain and Abel.
Where did the fellow other women come from?
Read the Bible carefully again, the book of Genesis. Man's life, Adam and Eve lived 2,000 years or something.
They had more kids.
So, you know what? I had my first child 2 years ago. I'm having my second child in 3-year gap. I know some of you have a sibling that's only 1 year apart. Imagine you live for 1,000 years. You're a perfect man and woman, filled with steroids and testosterone, and yeah.
So they just didn't write down.
No, it didn't write down. But then you can see that if God says man and Adam and Eve the only human, and then a few chapters later, there's Cain says like, I'm afraid of the others. What others? They're children of Adam and Eve. I mean, look through those three. Yes?
Wouldn't that mean though that like the brother and sister would have to like make more people?
Yes. And here's why. Like in the beginning, what did I say? Yeah, it's an incest. Yes, it's incest. But you know what? God allowed incest in the beginning because He had to populate. But you know why? Our genetic material at the time, we are not what we are today, imperfect. We are perfect being. So we had so much genetic materials that, remember the dog example? That allowed us to withstand. But now, if you marry your own brother because of the genetic deficiency, you are going to give birth to some very cuckoo, brother and sibling, and you don't want to do that. Yes.
You know, you said that the Big Bang Theory couldn't have happened because something can't just come from nothing.
Yes.
But then when God said let there be people, they just came out of nothing.
Good point. How did God do that? But didn't we talk about, that's a very good question. You said nothing, things cannot come from nothing, but how did God do it? Well, because He's God. That's why, that's the definition. Very good question, very profound question. That's what it means omnipotent. The strength of God. What do you mean by strength? That's what we mean by strength, that God is God. That's why He's God, that He can do that. And if you remove God out of the answer, then that's why scientists are still wondering, where do we come from? We don't know, and we keep searching for it.
Revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of men who suppress the truth by their wickedness. 19 Since what may be known about God is plain to them.
What about God is plain to everybody. It's not that just we see the nature, they see the nature, same thing. But because God made it plain to them. Okay? It's not that I see something and they don't. We all see the same thing. It's plain. Keep reading. Okay, I read, sorry. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible quality, His eternal power and divine nature has been clearly seen and being understood from what has been made. So men are without excuse. So when somebody denies this, it's their choice. Like a very good question. Why do they still? Because that is their choice. I say I don't want God. Why? Because the moment I accept God into my life, I have to give up my sinful lifestyle. I mean, as a Christian, we are told no fornication, meaning don't have sex with other people before you get married. Right? Sex is without marriage. Don't do this. Don't do that. I mean, there's so many restrictions, right? And then so a lot of people don't want to accept God because the moment you accept, it's not really about the evolution. You can prove all the evolution in science one, but if they are not willing to abide and put themselves under God's subject, they will say no because it inconveniences me. That's the sinful nature of a human being.